That's what they're saying we're going to deal with. 35,770 deaths from prostate cancer. 35,000 men are going to lose their lives every year due to this stupid disease called prostate cancer. And the diagnosis each year has declined sharply from 2007 to 2014, coinciding with fewer men being screened because of changes in the screening recommendation.
This is HCRD.online. Raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically real. We're diving into humor, culture, and the conversations that matter. From everyday life to the prostate cancer journey that sparked it all. No scripts, no BS, just truth. Let's go.
Welcome back, my friends. My name's Steve Niemeyer. This is HCRD.online. I want to thank you guys for being here. I thought today we would talk about prostate cancer, expense of prostate cancer, and trying to make those hard decisions when there are a lot of outside influences affecting what you're going to do. So I want to just start by saying when you get the diagnosis, your brain is going to go through a lot of different emotions. You're going to go through the anger, the why me's. You're going to try to reason with your brain, trying to make things make sense because it's a scary, scary thing. Prostate cancer, any cancer sucks, but prostate cancer is one of those you don't hear a lot about until it happens. Great breast cancer awareness. They tell you, mammograms, check, do all the things that you do. Prostate cancer is a little different because most of the time your symptoms are undetected until you have an issue. And when they tell you you have cancer, your brain's going through, what am I going to do? How am I going to make all of this work? What kind of side effects am I going to have? What kind of family support am I going to have? And then all of a sudden your brain starts thinking about work. And you're making decisions on, am I going to do a proctectomy and I'm going to be off work for 4 weeks and I'm going to come back and I'm going to be all good? Am I going to do radiation and up to 40 treatments plus? And it's going to, driving every day, I'm going to miss a lot of work. Sometimes you have plans that allow you to do that. Some people are on the point system that you have to be cautious. Some, like me, you have so many vacation days you're going to take in a year, and when they're gone, there's always that fine print that says if you miss more days than you're allotted, you can have some kind of punishment up to and including termination. And I said, it really sucks that you get a sentence that says you could die, and your brain's thinking about money and you're thinking about your job and how are things going to change on the backside? Because if you don't work, you're going to lose everything you have, right? Eventually, it's going to get sold to pay for things you need to pay for. Plus, prostate cancer is not cheap. Anytime you have all these specialists involved and you go into the hospital and you have your surgery, even if everything goes well, there's consulting physicians and there's people that have their hand out asking for some money and insurance companies that have to figure out who actually did anything and who's going to get paid. And I think if it's submitted, it probably does. But that's the doctors, that's the insurance. That's the one that I said, let them worry about all that. I'm going to worry about this, and it's the cancer. And I have a different opinion than some. Richard Fleek that do the Hopecast with, he said the doctors are going to take care of it. I'm supposed to take care of living, and at the same time you have to be your own advocate. You have to know the plan. That's how I did it. I did a lot of research. I was looking at different options. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And end result was where my prostate cancer was, the numbers I had to do something in order to make this stop. And so I wanted it out of my body. I needed all of these paranoias to go. Now I had complications on the backside. We've been through that, talking more about it. It put me in the hospital for a month or so. And I did worry about work, and I did worry about things not like, hey, what are they doing without me? Is it going to fall apart? Is it going to do the thing? We had a plan, and that plan said that I was going to take care of things when I got back. So a lot of my job was able to be put on a back burner. But at the same time, I think, there's that fear of, hey, you know what? They're doing it without me. Now what happens when it comes time for contracts and renegotiations of your job and all that? Then you have to realize that it's not just you. 100,000 men advanced prostate cancer undergo a prostatectomy. So out of the 300,000 plus that are going to get diagnosed, you have every year about 100,000 people choose a prostatectomy. And now long-term studies have found that cancer reoccurs in 30 to 40% of the men after surgery. So you get your prostate removed. That's where the big mass is. That's you choose to do the prostatectomy, depending on if you had some microscopic spread outside the prostate. The post-surgery radiation can play a vital role in reducing your risk of reoccurrence. So despite the benefits, many patients decline or defer that radiation. For what reason? Because it requires daily sessions for several weeks, 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks. And then you're talking about hormone therapy and you're talking about all the things that are going on. They go, wait a minute, I'm going to go through menopause, chemical castration, and I'm going to miss how many hours of work? Where is the nearest center? Are you going to start deciding on where you go based on the location, the least amount of travel? Maybe go, hey, they're a 4.8 star facility with 12,000 reviews, but I'm going to go, this one's 3.9 and it has, 1,000 reviews and they say it's pretty good, but it's half the distance. It's going to save me time. It could possibly save your job. It could possibly do all kinds of things, right? Give you superior or inferior results. And the doctors may or may not be able to handle everything that comes up with your case. But hopefully you've done your research and your team's doing their thing and you get it out and you say, but wait a second. I may have to come back on the backside of this and do radiation. Well, my friends, August 28th of 24, I had my prostatectomy. And I had an appointment last week and they said, guess what? An oncologist needs to be part of your team now. And we're going to go with a radiation oncologist, the guy that is going to talk to you about the different options. And I said, so wait a minute, the JAMA Oncology, which is part of the UCLA Health Janssen Comprehensive Cancer Center out in LA. And they're suggesting that there may be a quicker option. And researchers have now found the stereostatic body radiotherapy, or the SBRT. And you guys have heard about that. People, hey, check into this. It's easier. It's faster. It's a form of high dose radiation that delivers in just 5 sessions. So instead of 20 sessions and whatever, 40, you can do this in a shorter amount of time with a higher dose radiation. And they're saying now it's just as safe as the conventional treatments with similar side effects, similar impacts on your quality of life. And anytime you talk about prostate cancer, you talk about different options you have for treatment, you have with that a different set of side effects that you can potentially have. Incontinence, ED, you can have all kinds of stuff with a prostatectomy. You can also have a lot of those same things with radiation, including some kind of scar tissue, some kind of burning, things that didn't need to be burned. It happens. Some statistics: 313,780 new cases of prostate cancer. That's what they're saying we're going to deal with. 35,770 deaths from prostate cancer. 35,000 men are going to lose their lives every year due to this stupid disease called prostate cancer. And the diagnosis each year has declined sharply from 2007 to 2014, coinciding with fewer men being screened because of changes in the screening recommendations. Since 2014, however, the incidence rate has increased by 3% per year. So it went down because of testing guidelines. They said, you're too old to be tested. You're not old enough to be tested. We don't have to do this with outside of it. You can wait another 10 years. All these things were being bounced around. But the bottom line is 1 in 8 are going to be diagnosed with prostate cancer during their lifetime. And the risk can vary depending on age, race, ethnicity, and other factors. Prostate cancer is more likely to develop in older men. About 6 in 10 prostate cancers are diagnosed in men who are 65 or older. And it is rare in men under 40, but the average age of men when they are first diagnosed is 67. I read about a guy that was 28. I believe he was 28 and had a very, very aggressive form of cancer. They say if it's early, it'll be aggressive. And as you get older, chances of it being aggressive onset cancer in your 70s is slim. The prostate cancer risk is also higher in African American men and Caribbean men of African ancestry over other races, and those numbers keep changing. It is the second leading cause of cancer death in American men, only behind lung cancer. And lung cancer numbers are going down because not as many people smoking. We've learned the lesson. We've seen the videos. We've seen pictures of lungs. They're not doing this with prostate cancer. They're not getting that early education out because people need to understand not only the function of their prostate gland, but why and when you need to be concerned. Give me some ideas of symptoms that I need to look out for, because at some point you're going to have to be exposed to the testing procedures. I don't know, maybe not, because you do have a chance to be one that doesn't have to deal with this. But if you do, at least the DRE and possibly some imaging could be coming your direction, depending on where your PSA is, and that changes throughout your life, because the older you get, you're going to see a natural increase in your PSA levels. And so anytime you see a young person and their PSAs pushing that top of the limit, that 0 to 4, and it gets into the 5s and 6s, they say if it's over 10, you have a higher risk of developing that cancer and having a reoccurrence. Mine was 8.8 months, but they didn't do it again. But with the rapid increase, I was in that ballpark. I did have all of those bad signs. It was actually outside of the margins and had some invasion. So I figured I would have to do radiation at some point or figure out what they want to do. So I had to jump through some hoops. I had a recommendation to go see a doctor about 45 minutes from me, and I would have been heading south to this center. And I talked to another one, and they said, oh, well, we don't do it, but we can send you on the other side of Austin, which is going to be 80, 90 miles. And I said, oh my gosh. So when I found out the first one, they didn't take my insurance. So you realize when you're trying to get this stuff done, my urologist had talked to the doctor and gave him a little synopsis of what was going on. And then he does a referral to my general practitioner that says do a referral for the procedure so you can go see the doctors and get this all figured out. So I actually go do that tomorrow, and I've been freaking out on this one, in my brain going, what do I expect? There's a lot of things behind the scenes, lots of questions. And so I thought maybe we just hit on what I did. Chat GPT helped me out as far as, give me some information on radiation after a prostatectomy. And it was there, and I said, what questions do I need to ask the oncologist? Because I didn't know. I had no idea what I was going to ask, other than the fact that how many do we have to do this, that, and the other. My doctor called me and said, hey, I spoke to the guy that you're going to go see. He's a really good friend of mine. I gave him the information on everything you're doing. The office is working with you. They're going to contact you. We've talked. We're just waiting for the general practitioner to send the referral over in his name due to the insurance ladder. And he said, okay, I talked to him, and he said that there are some new studies, and he is very hip on trying to figure out, do you need to do the hormone therapy along with the radiation? Do you do hormone therapy and wait? Well, you wait, then your PSA is being kind of covered up with that blanket of doing hormone therapy, and you don't get to see what it's really doing. They say it's going to shrink everything, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line with all of this is there is a possibility that I can do the radiation therapy without the hormone therapy. So that's at least a positive sign. But I said, well, how much time do we have to talk? And they said, we set aside an hour, but don't worry, if you're not done in an hour, we'll go until your questions are answered. And a friend of mine that went through this whole same procedure I went through, had the same surgeon, had the same radiation people. I asked him, and he said, oh, I would go here. So when I asked my doctor, he goes, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Go there. They're awesome people, and I know them really well. So anyhow, I have that doctor connection. If you ask the right questions when you're in your appointment, you will be able to get assistance in where to go. And if they don't have the answers, they're going to point you in the direction of someone that does. So, prostate cancer, definitely serious. Most men diagnosed with prostate cancer do not die from it. In fact, more than 3.5 million men in the U.S. who have been diagnosed with prostate cancer at some point in their life are still alive today. So there's 3.5 million blue ribbon guys out there, and it's something that people, for whatever reason, don't talk about. And that's one of the reasons I'm here, because I want to open this up and let people at least have a safe space to talk and to get some information and learn. So have some plans to have some doctor guests on with me and a psychologist with me in the future. So we can do that as well. My daughter is going to continue to talk. Everybody wants to talk prostate cancer with me, so we're going to do that because that was the main springboard of what I'm doing here at HCRD.online. That's just the way it is. So prostate cancer death, good news, that rate has declined by about half from 93 to 2022, most because of early detection advance. So if you don't catch it early, when they do catch it, you're gonna have some issues. So the risk of developing prostate cancer increases with age, and I mentioned that. So some stats on that one. While prostate cancer is rare in men under 40, the risk sharply increases after the age of 50. 6 in 10 prostate cancers are diagnosed in men age 65 or older. So 50% is to when they say, wait, it's most of the time when it hits you later. Like we said, remember, it's a slower growing prostate cancer, and it's usually not due to biomarkers and all of that. And we'll get to some of that at some point. But the average age of diagnosis is 66. So I was a little under that, right? I'm not even 60 yet, but under 40, prostate cancer is rare. In that age group, 40 to 50, it begins to increase. 50 to 65, it continues with that notable rise, like we mentioned, after the age of 50. 65 and older, 60% of prostate cancer cases diagnosed in this age group. Before they said 50, now it's 60. So, you got to love the info in the same article when they change their mind. But anyhow, a lot more people diagnosed over the age of 65. The risk continues to increase with age, but the disease tends to be less aggressive in older men, especially over the age of 70. So Mr. Biden's case, when his came back at stage 4, it's metastasized, it's in his bones, it's a bad thing. Well, obviously it was there earlier, and somehow presidential screenings missed it. Do you have a father or a brother with prostate cancer? You have increased. African American men, we talked about that, prostate cancer at a younger age compared to men. So if you're African American, chances are you're going to see that develop a little earlier. So I would say get that PSA baseline earlier and worry about this. Now, the gene mutations that I hit on, if you have the BRCA1 or the BRCA2 genes with a mutation in those, mine is in the BRCA1, it increases the risk. My mom had breast cancer. That is in that same genome that says you have a possibility of prostate cancer. So it's on both sides of the family. You have to pay attention to what's going on with family history, and at the same time, just have your PSA checked. You're in there drawing blood once a year anyway. Make sure that you have a PSA test. On the backside of your prostatectomy, make sure it's an ultra-sensitive PSA test. Okay, and we've talked about that in the past, the difference. But they're saying now the screening is recommended at age 50. If you have genetic stuff that says, hey, guess what? You may not know the genome sequencing and find out what's wrong. But if you have it in your family genes, there is a chance that you should start this earlier because of that chance that you're at a higher risk. So screening may be recommended starting at 40 or 45. Here we go. For African American men and those with family history of early onset prostate cancer. So if they go, hey, when did they develop prostate cancer? When you go to the urologist, make sure you have your family history. I know nothing on my dad's side other than my dad and his brothers and sisters, and cancer was there, but it was lung cancer, and it was also contributed to job factors and welding dust and asbestos and farm chemicals and all of that stuff that they did. Plus, the 2-3 packs of nons probably didn't help them either. But the benefits of screening for men over 70 are less clear. The disease may be less aggressive in this age group. So that's why they decide that they're going to not do that at some point. But anyhow, this is a scary thing when you get that diagnosis, and the fact that it boils down to how many days are you going to miss from work and how do you make that up? When does it start? Is it something you postpone where it's more convenient for work, or is it something that you say, I'm going to take care of right now because it's scary and I want it out of me and I want to do whatever I need to do to get better? And so it was kind of an emotional Father's Day this year because I didn't know if I was going to see this Father's Day last year. Not at this time, but sorry, have a gnat flying around. We should talk about plant care and indoor plants. I think that thing back there is these little tiny gnats. I mean, I said this, that's a horsefly, but you know what I'm saying. They're buzzing around. They're just annoying. Maybe you have them in your houseplants. They said if you remove the top inch of dirt and then put some fresh soil on top of it, maybe a little cinnamon water solution. I've seen that kill plants too, so don't believe everything you see on social media about how to care for your stuff. But anyhow, it's a scary thing when they sent me, because I have to go to a PSMA test, a PSA specific PET scan next Tuesday. And so I go tomorrow to talk to the oncologist for the first time. Then I turn around and go back to do the PET scan because he said he needs to see it. And so with all of the information, remember that individual specific journey that you're on. It doesn't make sense to listen to other people's horror stories of what they went through if you're not going to educate yourself on the fact that that is a small percentage. The chances of you having crazy complications are broken down. You have to do research. You have to know what they're talking about. The people that go, oh my gosh, if I would have known I was going to have, incontinence issues and, ED issues and all of these things, I wouldn't have had my prostate removed. If you went somewhere to have it removed and you didn't talk about all those things, if your doctor didn't talk about them, you're one of them maybe that chose the closer location because of convenience rather than experience. I say that not knowing your case. Why and how can I say that? That isn't fair of me to do, but that's what people do on the support groups and on the forums and on all the things that you go to get that information. ChatGPT, be careful. They have information. We just saw in one article they had a conflict. Well, ChatGPT gets a hold of that, and the learning module doesn't know how to decipher. It just has to compare it to other things and come up with a little, but then look at your sources. Because that little hypothesis, that little tiny summary of what you could have done, if you're not looking at those sources to figure out where they got that information, you could be being misled, going down the wrong path. But talk to your doctors. You have hired your doctors to be your doctor. They didn't seek you out, you seek them, right? You chose to go where you're going. If you're not happy, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to get multiple opinions and go where you want to go. I could tell just from talking to the 4 or 5 different places I talked to when I found out I was going to have to do radiation. I realized the place that I'm going now is the one I wanted to be at to begin with. They are crazy over the top nice, or we are going to do whatever it takes. We don't want you to have to worry about the scheduling and to make sure all of this is going to pan out with the insurance. Let us fight all that stuff, and then we're going to call you, and everything's going to be okay, and we're going to do our best to take care of you. And I said, thank you. The other ones were all, well, if you would do this, and maybe we could get around that and this. And no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to cut corners in this. This is the second time I've had to make these life-altering decisions that are going to affect me for the rest of my life. The side effects, complications, and all of the stuff. Now, I knew I was outside the margins and had invasion. I knew this was a possibility. And when they said that we were going to have to do this, it scared the hell out of me all over again. I got into that funk, and my family's all, come on, we're having fun. It's Father's Day. And I go, no, I'm trying, man. But in a couple days, I'm gonna get hit with more news. Record your doctor appointments. I sat down with my urologist the other day, and he took 25 minutes talking to us about all of the different options, the different doctors, the things that we could do, things that could potentially, be a side effect of that option, and you got to weigh it. And then he goes, you can't make that decision right this second. But we do need to involve the people that are going to make that happen when you make that decision. And so, just more people on my side. And I hope you guys are picking up pieces of this, learning from this. Please share this with your friends. If you know of anyone that's going through this, maybe a spouse of somebody that's going through prostate cancer, maybe you're scared, you just got diagnosed, and you need to hear from somebody that's been there, done that truly cares about what happens to you. I want to give you information, and if I say something that's not right, I apologize. I'm human. I want you guys to be able to follow along, ask questions. Just shoot me the questions you have. Email me. All the information is there, hcrd.online. If you go there, that's the portal to me. You're going to see other podcasts. You're going to find out what's going on in my journey, and you'll be able to search different podcasts or video podcasts or whatever you want to call this thing I'm doing. I call it sharing. And I'm an open book. I'm going to help you through this if you'll allow me to do that. And if you can kind of hit on a couple of these things and go, I understand what he's talking about. He said something. What is that? What is a PSMA PET scan? Look it up. Find out what they're saying they're going to do. Because there's always there's an alternative. There's something else that's out there. There's clinical trials that are going. They have the new light beam therapy that they're working on right now. And they said that they do it the same way they do the bone scan. When it lights up, they can go in and zap it with light. It's not about today. It's not going to be ready for 10 or 20 years. All right. And I hope you guys are able to utilize that if it becomes available. But you know what? All these trials and all the things we're going through and all the data that they're collecting from us is going to help people next generation. the next group of people that have to go through this. They're going to have to pick up that torch and they're going to ring the bell. They're going to make things happen, people. And I want you to invite them to join me on my journey. All right. I'm going to get out of here, move on, and do my thing. I will keep you guys posted on what's going on. These episodes drop sometimes once a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending on topics and who's available to do what and where my time is, because I'm spending as much time as humanly possible with my family and making sure that they know that I love them and I care for them, and I will do anything to stay on this planet sucking air so I can help them, because that's what life's all about, being a parent. So people, I will talk to you on the flip side, and until then, you guys be good.